This is Inspirational Women, a weekly series shining the spotlight on female trailblazers making a true difference in our community. Once again, here is Kate Daniels.
Mother's Day, good reminder for everyone to be giving this some thought. One Thought is a great read, a new book from Helen Winslow Black, an author, a storyteller, and someone who lives just down the road in Portland. We get a chance to talk about her book, Songs My Mother Taught Me. Helen Winslow Black, good morning, and thank you so greatly for being with us today.
Good morning, Kate. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so appreciative of the fact that you're a writer, you have great stories to tell, and of course it's a passion of yours, so I guess that goes hand in hand. And you have this new book, Songs My Mother Taught Me, and this really takes us on quite a journey, multi-journeys really, and gets into some really important issues that too many people face these days, thinking about violence perpetuated on women, trying to balance, careers with a family and really just living our best life. So you really have mastered that, I think, here in this book, Songs My Mother Taught Me. Some of it was a little personal motivation, right?
Sure. Yes. As you use the word passion, writing is my passion.
Yeah, okay.
And storytelling is my vocation, along with motherhood. Motherhood is core to my mission. I raised 5 children, but writing is also my passion. And I think books are medicine. Books are medicine for the heart and for the soul and for the mind. People go to books, people go to fiction in particular to grow and expand and learn. And I think books are really conversation starters. They're just the beginning of a conversation. And in this instance, in Songs My Mother Taught Me, I feel particularly it's a conversation between women, mothers and daughters, sisters, best friends. So, yes.
And so for you, as a writer and books being important, did this start at a young age that you really immersed yourself in books and stories?
Absolutely. I learned to read when I was 3.
Wow.
So the younger generation may not think that's any big deal, but for my generation, it did not happen. You did not learn to read until you walked through the door of your first grade classroom. And but I had a sister, and I had an older sister who came home and taught me and played teacher and taught me to read. And they didn't really know that I could read until one day she said, "Do you know where that book is with the picture of the 4 girls on the cover?" And I said, "You mean Little Women?" And everybody was like, "She can read." So I've been an avid and voracious reader ever since I was small, in and out of the library. You could only check out 3 books at a time. I was there every 3 days. And then I started writing early too. I think you're just bitten by the bug. My elementary school principal did creative writing with us in the primary grades, and I just loved it, and so I just kept going.
Yeah. And well, isn't that just so perfect to be in a situation? Well, a couple of things. A sister who plays teacher and teaches you to read, but then to have such a great elementary school where they really focused on writing. I was a teacher in a former life, and you know what? And I didn't want to work with elementary level. I thought, no, I want to be with the older kids, which I did. But now I realize elementary school is where it's at. If we teach at this age where kids are just really open to learning some of these fundamentals, expose them like to creative writing, I mean, how amazing would this be for their lives?
Absolutely. You have to get them while they're young.
Yes.
You have to get them when they're young, when they're really young. And I have a feeling that my principal, he must have been an English major because this was his special thing that he did with us. And, I did a book signing in Highland Park, Illinois, last weekend or the weekend before, and I dedicated the reading to this elementary school principal, Norman Erickson, Central School, Glencoe, Illinois. And afterward, some of my core constituency and my childhood friends came up and they said, "Thank you so much for doing that, because teachers matter, and this teacher really mattered." And so I think whatever your special thing is, as a teacher, I don't know what your subject was, but you share all the you rope in a lot of stuff and you share it, and you never know what's going to light the spark. And I've discovered that with raising my own 5 children, watching them and just being along for the ride and seeing what is it that they try that really ignites something in them. And it's such a wonderful experience when you see that happen
Yes.
in their eyes and in their voice. And I think elders, this is our mission. Our mission is to share all that we know with the younger generation, to help them find their voices.
Yes. And start as early as possible to be nurturing that, because if we wait too long, kids just begin to be a little too distant. But I think if we start that relationship, they may wander away a bit, but they'll come back. At least the foundation is set.
Absolutely. The seed has been planted.
Yes. Right.
Okay, and who knows when you may not be around when it blooms. But
yes.
It doesn't matter, because you did what you ought to have done, and maybe something cool is going to come out of it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what certainly happened with your life. And you were nurturing that with your kids, and you've seen that happen with them, that they went on to be voracious readers themselves.
Actually, yes. And I'm very proud of that. A few years ago, I just sat up and realized, gee, they all read for pleasure. And I think that's great. I wish everybody would do that. We are in such a visual and digital age, but reading, there's nothing like it, because you're creating the world with your own imagination. You're not taking in something that's being given to you. When you create the world with your own imagination, you have no boundaries, and nobody can put systems in place to peg you, to pigeonhole you. And then if you want to get into traumatic events, to kind of control and oppress you. So that creative freedom that comes from developing the imagination through reading, as opposed to watching the movies or on your tiny little screen, it's key. I think it's key.
Yes, it is. And I find that too for myself. If I've read a book and then I see the movie, there's invariably disappointment, because it doesn't measure to what was in my head. And not that I would know exactly, like, well, that's what it should look like, but the feeling isn't there. I mean, that's what happens with our imagination. It really is, all-encompassing.
It is the creative impulse. The creative impulse. It's like when your heart and your soul combine, and that's imagination, and your mind and everything. That's imagination. And that's really true. I try to make sure to read the book before I see the movie. So you might be a little bit disappointed even doing it that way, but it's a little bit less so than if you watch the movie and then try to go back and place that structure onto the book. Right. So I encourage that. So everybody has to read my book before somebody makes a movie of it, which I hope they do, because I put a wonderful scene. I put a wonderful scene in there set in Mexico, because I thought, I don't want to be glib. It's a beautiful scene between the mother and her 2 daughters. And I thought, it was wintertime. I was like, I really want, when they make the movie of this book, I really want to go visit the set. So I'm going to put a scene in Mexico, so I get to go to Mexico, because I haven't been there in years. But yeah, read the book and then see the movie. No matter what it is. Yeah.
Right. And this, thinking of the book as adapting to a movie and being involved in the screenplay and having it happen, that's a part of it too. Dreams occur as we read and we, look out into the world. So that's great. I'm going going to be holding that place for you too to have a movie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and certainly it's an important book story to be portraying and to share, because there's so much here that is so much current life. When we think about the challenges, especially the abuse that goes on in our world, the domestic violence, it's just mind-boggling that it continues and it escalates. So, what was your motivation here, Helen, to choose that as being critical to the book?
Sharing, helping, and teaching. And, trauma is a catalyst for growth. So I took this character, poor Kim. No, Kim, I love you. Yes. She, they live in my head. I took this character and I threw a lot of stuff at her. I threw a heck of a lot of stuff at her because I wanted to see her figure her way through, what is a traumatic situation, because the difficulty she has in her marriage and her family life occur after she's, to backtrack a little bit, she got her life on track after a brief and abusive marriage, and she got her life back on track. She's a lawyer. She's got a 2-year-old, and she makes a really wise choice in her second marriage. And so she, skips down that road. And, all marriages have their ups and downs and their challenges and their difficulties. But this is a really solid marriage. And she's very invested in it. And I wanted to see what happens when really difficult circumstances occur that put you on shaky ground, crumble the foundations, of your life. How do you deal with that when you can't just say, oh, okay, whatever, it was nice, but I'm out of here, and it wasn't very long, but really invested in it, and having to manage a family of children through these difficult circumstances that really, you gotta pull it up, from deep inside to do that. And I wanted to see this character, I wanted to see her navigate that.
Mm-hmm. And so you had a process, obviously, of how to navigate that? Was dreaming part of it? You said the characters live in your head. Were you having conversations with Kim?
Yes, I was. And it's so funny that you bring that up, because just before, sometimes things do come to you in dreams. And then you're like, how did that happen? Just before we were calling, I was remembering that she has an employer, a lawyer named Terry DeSilva, who runs a nonprofit called Rivers Northwest, which is, I was very interested in the dam removal pushes that are going on and have been going on. So I picked that because I wanted to research that and have, and learn more about it. But she has this boss who's older than she is, and she's very nice and maternal. And I just woke up one night in the middle of the night, and I'm like, her boss's name is Terry DeSilva. It's Terry DeSilva. Of course, that's her name. And, and I wrote it down. And then when I woke up again in the morning, I was like, do I know a Terry DeSilva? Was I thinking about, an old college roommate named Terry DeSilva? So I Googled Terry DeSilva. And at the time, I didn't find a Terry DeSilva. So, okay, well, I guess her name is, God has spoken. Yeah. Her name is Terry DeSilva. But, ideas come to you in so many different ways. And it's so many different, I get ideas when I'm swimming. Things will pop into my head. I guess, exercise, walking, whatever. It's a little bit of a meditation, isn't it?
Yes.
And your mind clears a little bit and you get ideas. And of course, there's a lot of family in the book, lots of children. She lives next to her sister, essentially, and they have 7 children between them, and they kind of raise them together, which helps them manage also having work, outside work in their lives. And so I've just got such a treasure trove of humorous, every time my children said something funny, I wrote it down. They get tired of me taking notes, but I have a treasure trove of humorous quips from children. And somehow it with a good cup of coffee and some quiet time, it all comes together.
Yeah. And that's fun to know, because on the one hand, I think a story that encourages others who might be thinking about writing. But you can apply it to other careers, but certainly in terms of writing and how that creative flow happens and just being receptive to it and following those threads. It's just always interesting to hear how that unfolds.
It's a mystery. Creativity is a mystery. It's like love. Love is a mystery. How can two people who aren't in each other's heads and minds, how can they come together and create this unity, which we call an us? That's a mystery. There's a mysterious ingredient, and it's the same thing with creativity. It's like how does it happen? The ingredients kind of flow in, but there's some kind of alchemical process, that occurs inside you. And I want everyone to experience that. You are a teacher. You've been a teacher. I would love to teach writing someday. That's a dream.
Oh,
Yeah, of mine.
well, and there it is, a dream. It starts with dreams and being
Yes.
able to then kind of pull at the threads. And because without a dream, might you chance upon something like that? It's not that likely. But when you dream it, it begins to
Yes.
have a life. It's that seed that is being planted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You can't get anywhere without dreaming, and I don't want to get up on my soapbox about keeping your children away from digital media, but you can't get anywhere without dreaming. And actually, you can't work yourself out of any hole in life, any difficulties, any challenges. You can't work yourself out of them unless you have that ability to visualize another reality. That is so important. You have to be able to visualize it, and then you have to somehow inside yourself have the confidence that you can get from point A to point B. And in my books, I wrote a previous book, which is like a prequel, which is also about Kim in an earlier phase of her life. You dream, you envision a future, and then you somehow find the strength, whether it's the people around you. In the songs my mother taught me, it's more the women in her family around her are her resources. You find the strength somehow to walk yourself out of that hole, because nobody can do it but you. And that's so true. It's true of domestic violence recovery. Nobody can. You just have to get fed up enough to say, I'm going to take that one step, and then another step follows it. The ability to manifest that dream is so important. And I want to write books where people are tussling with this and thinking about it and being inspired.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the human dynamic, like what is really causing us to tick and do things, be creative. But as you mentioned, with our kids, we have a responsibility because there is so much of the digital devices around and keeping that at bay. Well, your kids are voracious readers. Did you need to have any kind of battles with cell phones and computers with them?
Yes, and it's so interesting because the book Songs My Mother Taught Me covers a span of like 15 years. There's so much technological change occurs during that time. With my own family, there's a 10-year spread between the oldest and the youngest, and I perceived significant differences in the digital stuff. Because when my oldest was young, most kids didn't get a cell phone until they were in high school. And then they had to put it in a basket at the door of the classroom. So he was not exposed to that at all. Oh, and also, by the way, I'm a bit of an outlier. I started out with Waldorf school, and although I migrated to another school system, we did not have a TV in our house until the oldest was 12. I pulled a small TV out Friday nights and put in a movie for movie and pizza night. So that might also have contributed to the fact that they became readers. But by the time the younger ones rolled along, it was a much different scenario. There was texting and all this stuff barraging them, and a significant impact, I think, on your nervous system, on your brain. So it's, and I think people are starting to pay attention to that. Don't you think so?
Yes, I think there are more conversations now happening, but we've already had a generation that has had this as their seed being planted. And, turning that ship around, if you will, is a bit of a challenge. Not that it can't be done, and I feel it needs to be done, because otherwise we're robbing each child of so much of their potential by letting them just get stuck in all that digital stuff.
Yes, and it's so interesting because the school in the town in Colorado where I live a part of the year, they recently, this past school year, banned cell phones during the school day, and the parents were the ones who were kind of worried about it or opposed to it. The children, when it transpired, loved it. They interacted with each other. They played on the playground at recess. So I think, yes, when you begin to turn a battleship, you see very little motion at the beginning, but momentum increases, and I think it would be a very good thing. It's interesting. When I was writing the book, there was so much change, not just with technology and children, but everything, the economy, women and work issue, which I play within this book. But at the beginning of the book, it's before 9/11, and I thought to myself, well, there's a whole generation of people who will have no idea what it was like to be in an airport in the olden days. And I have a very important scene that occurs in an airport, yes, as you well know, and it's lovely, and it's poignant at the end. And yes, I love those characters. But I thought to myself, how am I going to write this scene so that gets into, I want to be a writing teacher. How do I write this scene to make it clear that this is before 9/11, when an airport was like a bus station, anybody could walk in or out, and she has a cell phone, which is brand new, and hardly anybody has a cell phone, and how do you convey the passage of time? So that's a very interesting challenge, because this book covers a number of years, whereas the first book I wrote is basically like 24 months or something like that. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do that.
And you just needed the challenge after then your first book, and it was a shorter term, to then go through so many more years and doing the research to make sure that it all fit with what was going on at the time, and because you wanted to be relatable, believable for the reader, right? Yeah.
You do a lot of research. None of it ends up in the book. None of it ends up in the book. Those ginormous rolls of butcher block paper that they might have in classrooms for the kids. I had one of those in my house, and so I still, because they're huge. It would take 100 years to use one up at home. And I took a huge piece of it and ripped it off, and I laid it on the floor, and I made a timeline, because I had lots of people. Yeah. And lots of events and lots of moving around. She moves around geographically a few times before she finally settles in Seattle and lives near her sister, which was a little bit of wishful thinking, because I never raised my family in any of the places I lived. I was never near family. So I thought, I want to write a book where that happens. That'll be fun. Yeah. But I had this whole timeline on the floor and this ginormous piece of paper.
And so there's the value both in writing. You get to experience a different life, and that's us as readers. We get to experience, maybe it's something we relate to in part or a lot, Or maybe not at all, but it gives us these
Right.
insights we never would have had. And actually, I'm a fan of historical fiction, and I
Mhm.
love to get into those books because it really makes an era come to life. And I think we can learn, as opposed to reading a history book, which might feel
Mhm.
a little dry at times. By
Mhm.
historical fiction, we really can get a lot. So reading and
Yes.
these stories that we tell, and you're such an animated storyteller,
Thank
really getting
you.
into your characters and the storylines. It's just so wonderful.
Well, I just, like I said, it's my passion.
Yeah.
It just sprung up, and that's my job.
Well, a job that obviously, well, it's a passion, so you
It's a
love it.
joy.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's my privilege and my joy. Yes.
So, for people to learn more about you, to be able to learn more about the book and how to get the book, let's mention your website. I think that's a good resource.
Sure. My website is, as with most authors, my name.com. So it's helenwinslowblack.com. And it's got links to other interviews. There's a few TV interviews, and there will be a print interview. There's some print interviews and other radio interviews. So if you want to find out a little bit more, because it's so wonderful, because everyone asks you different questions,
Sure.
So you can get a taste, you can get a flavor, to see if the book, might be for you, or for your coworker, or for your cousin. You never know. And so you can surf that. And what else did I want to say
As
about
to
that?
get the book.
Yeah.
You,
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you, Kate.
of course.
Little nudge. Okay. I need to take another sip of coffee here. Um, you can, love indies, support indies. You
Yes.
can order the book at your favorite local independent bookstore, but you can also get it online anywhere. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Powell's, the famous Powell's,
Yes.
Portland, um, any of those websites. You can order it there.
Yes.
And if you do, please send me an email on my website address, which is helen@helenwinslowblack.com, and start a conversation. Tell me how you like the book, because, or buy 2 copies, give one to a friend, and you have an instant book club.
That's right.
It's all about the conversations.
Or maybe you have a group of friends and make it a little larger book club, and just really have some very interesting, stimulating conversations. Because, yes, we have a longer space of years that this book takes place over, and lots of important conversations and topics. So a lot to talk about.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I could talk all day, Kate.
Well, that's why you're also a really wonderful writer, because the
Yes,
stories just really
yes.
start to pour out of you.
Well,
Well,
I know.
Yes, go ahead.
Kate, wait. I just remember the other thing I wanted to say was, I write humor, and I'm going to bring out a humor book. It'll probably come out at the beginning of next year, but you can look at the cover on my website. It's called Eat, Pray, Drive.
And
It's a collection.
thank you for mentioning that, because I actually did see that on your website, and it sounds really interesting. So maybe that will be the impetus for another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That would be great fun.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
this has definitely been wonderful fun. So thank you for taking time with us this morning, Helen. It's been wonderful to get a little into the book, to learn more about you, and I hope maybe even inspire others in different ways, with their own creativity, and certainly where technology is involved with your kids.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Kate. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you for sharing your time here this morning to meet these amazing people, hear their important stories, all of which are key elements of our community and support great people and important events. Please check the station's website for the podcasts, for more information about these guests, and please share the stories with your family and friends. I'm Kate Daniels, and if you'd like to connect with me, please send me an email, katedaniels@hubbardradio.com. And have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening to Inspirational Women. Tune in every Sunday morning at this time to hear about those truly empowering the Northwest community, all for the greater good. Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women are a public service of Hubbard Radio Seattle.